It is a Saturday evening here in Ontario, Canada. We have a beautiful sunny evening. It's starting to get darker earlier and earlier, by the way, as we get closer to fall. It's still midsummer, but as we get closer to fall. But anyways, welcome to everyone who's here this evening. Let me just make sure that everything is working correctly. Hopefully things go well tonight and you're able to practice a little bit of English. Todd the Canadian is here. He's in the chat. Looks like everything's working great. And Todd will be posting a link in the chat from time to time. I think it's on that side on my computer. And you can use that link to ask some questions. If you're here for the first time, I'm Bob the Canadian. I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat. There are so many names of people in the chat. I just want to say hi to everyone who is there. I know we have some people in the chat who are learning English, and I think we even have one or two actual English teachers in the chat. I saw Free99 in there earlier, who also has a channel. So anyways, Bob the Canadian here. If it's your first time here, hit the subscribe button if you want to be notified when there's more lessons. And let's get started. Should I tell you a bit about my week, or should I jump right into the questions? I think we should jump right into the questions. I had a very boring week. There's not a whole lot to talk about. So the first question is from Lolly Lolly. Lolly Lolly is a regular on the live stream. I see her usually on both live streams. So hi Lolly, your question is, hi Bob, rise or raise? I am very confused. Yeah, so rise and raise both refer to something going up. And I think the easiest way to remember it is through a couple of example sentences. The sun will rise in the morning. So you notice the sun rises. The subject of the sentence is what is going up. Also, when you put yeast into the dough when you make bread, the bread, when you put it in the oven, will rise a little bit. So that's how you use rise. When you use raise, though, it's usually like, I am raising this cup. So this is called the object of the sentence. I don't want to get into all the details of grammar, but you use the word raise when something is being raised by something else. So you could raise a cup in the air. You can raise your hand. So notice after the verb raise, there's always an object. So that's the difference, Lolly, between the two. I'm just going to pause again just to say hello to everyone who's here. My Fly, the teaching assistant, is flying around here. Thank you to those of you that left comments this week. It was fun to read. If you didn't have a chance, there is a really good video from Tuesday. I'll put a link up here if you're watching the replay, where I taught some English at a hotel. I think you would like it. But let's get to the next question. Lolly Lolly has another question. How to use used to and would when we talk about habits in the past. So they're not exactly the same, but they can be exactly the same. So when I was a kid, I used to go to school every day. When I was a kid, I would go to school every day. So I'm talking about a repeated action in the past. When I got home from school, I used to ask my mom for a snack. When I got home from school, I would ask my mom for a snack. So in those examples, they mean almost exactly the same thing. Enough of the same thing that you wouldn't need to worry about it too much. So you could use those in those examples almost interchangeably. Sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable here sitting at my picnic table. Next question is from Agnier. I always have trouble saying Agnier's name. Agnier says, hi Bob, do you know about the English expression with your name in it? Bob's your uncle. It means something like no problem, or there you have it, or the solution is simple. I am aware of this phrase. We don't use it a lot in Canada anymore. I think it's very British. I have heard it and I am familiar with it though. So if someone asked for a cup of tea, and I said, how do you like it? And they said, with some sugar. I put the sugar in. I said, there's your tea. Bob's your uncle. Like, it was so simple. It's like, no problem. There you have it. It's all done. You're good to go. I should drink some of my tea though. Anyways, we should continue. Again, hello to everyone who's watching. Again, if you have a question, you can post it using the link. Let's see what the next question is. Cheng says, I help my son take a shower most of the time. Before that, I sometimes say, let's wash up. But it seems it's not used this way. What would you say? Let's take a shower is wordy. I would probably say you need to take a shower. And I'm assuming that you also know that you can say you need to have a shower. There's two ways to use shower. But you would say that. You would just say, like in the morning, I take a shower. In the morning, I would say to Jen, hey, I'm going to take a shower. That's exactly how you would say it, Cheng. So it seems wordy, but it is how we would say it. Next question, Cheng says, good morning. It must be morning over there. We should dry or dry out, dry off, dry up our hair after showering. So I would say you would probably dry off and you would probably dry your hair. So you would dry off your whole body, but when you're rubbing a towel on your hair, you usually would say that you would dry your hair. That's how it would go. So free.99 English says, hello Bob, feel free to call me Sean the New Brunswicker. So by the way, free.99 English is also a YouTube English teacher. I just checked out his channel earlier. That's pretty cool. A couple videos there that you could go watch. Anyways, next one, Maxime says, hey, could you do a video for a receptionist? Maxime, this has been asked for a couple of times and it is on the list, okay? So I do hope in the future to do a video for someone who works as a receptionist. For those of you that don't know, when you walk into an office building, the first desk you see is someone who is called a receptionist. And they would welcome you to the office building and they would ask who you're there to meet, or they would ask if they could help you. So I will do a video, Maxime, soon on that. Sorry that I haven't gotten to that yet, but I will do that. Wendy has the next question. Wendy says, when to use good evening, good afternoon, and good night. So anytime it is after 12 noon, so anytime it's after lunch, you would use good afternoon. I personally would use good afternoon probably till about 5 o'clock. 4 o'clock to me is still afternoon, but it varies depending on where you are. But I would say good afternoon until about 4 o'clock, maybe 5. And then around 6 o'clock, I would probably say good evening. And we don't usually say good night to introduce ourselves. We usually only say good night at the end of an event. So you would say good night to someone before you leave. So when you meet someone at night, you usually just say hello. So if you meet someone at night, you don't say to them, good night, how are you doing? You don't say that. You would just say, hello, how are you this evening? Or hello, how are you? Oh, by the way, I just used evening there. You would use evening later in the evening. You wouldn't say so much good evening if it's after 8 or 9 o'clock at night. But anyways, that's when I would use it. Anytime after 5 or so, I would use good evening. That was one of Bob's not so good explanations, but it was still good. Let's see, the next question is from Johnny. I have lots of questions to go through tonight. Johnny says, how do you pronounce the TH in with? Thanks in advance. So with, you can see my tongue comes out a bit, with. It's not very nice when people stick their tongue out, but when you say with, so I have my tongue between my teeth, and I'm pushing a little bit of air out. So with, it's a very hard sound to make for many people who are learning English. Flavio from Brazil says, Flavio, hi Bob, Flavio from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Hello Flavio, I love your lessons. Can you help me with this word further? How can I use it? So the question always comes up, the difference between further and farther. And in informal English, sometimes we use them the same. So if I put this here, it's too close to the camera, so I'm going to put it further from the camera. I could also say I'm going to put it farther from the camera, but the pronunciation is further. So if I was to say this, the bottle of bug spray is further from the camera than my cup. It's further away. But you could also say that the bug spray's farther from the camera. I would probably go with further. And you know, most Canadians wouldn't even really know the difference between the two. They would just use one of them and then keep talking. So, but I think we should continue on. Let's see. Oh, this is from Jessica. This is a great question, Jessica. What is the difference between 'cause and because? And have a great day, thank you. Well, you have a great day too, Jessica. So 'cause is an informal short form of the word because. So I could type, I do this lesson 'cause I like teaching English. And I could also say I do this lesson because I like teaching English. I need to increase my typing speed. So 'cause is simply a short form, an informal short form. We don't usually write it down. When we are writing in English, we don't use 'cause. We would always use because. But in spoken English, you might watch that. Let's see here. For some reason, I can't paste my comment. Let me try again. And I'm having a technical difficulty. Let me erase a couple of things sometimes. Let's see here. This is from Andrew Sinofsky. How to cope with the TH and S. Oh, I see. When you're linking, yes. Okay, so I can't post the question, but I'll read it. Andrew says, how to cope with the TH to S and the other way around sounds when linking. So when you're saying words that end in TH, I like to go to the store with my kids. So the TH blends into the next word. So sorry, Andrew, I can't paste your comment. So we'll move on to the next one. Leonid from the Ukraine. Hello, Leonid. Hi, Bob. Please tell me the difference between I love reading and I love to read. Thank you for your channel being the best. Well, thank you very much. So I love reading, or I love to read. I love drinking tea. I love to drink tea. It's simply a choice. There's no difference between the two sentences. I like cycling, or I like to cycle. Actually, we don't say to cycle. We say I like to go ride my bike. That's a bad example. I like to eat. I like eating. They are exactly the same. It's simply a matter of choice. So whichever you think sounds better to you. Next question from Lisa. How to use properly what a shame in daily conversation. What does it mean? Thanks. So when you hear somewhat bad news, so let's say my brother says, my son dropped out of university. He quit university. I would say, what a shame. Because I think to myself, my nephew is really smart. He should have stayed in university. So you would say, what a shame. You can also say, oh, what a waste. Like you hope or you wish they had stayed doing what they were doing. Let me tidy up my questions here, everybody. And I will go to the next one from Renata Mayumi. Renata says, could you explain the difference between shut someone down and shut someone out? So if someone is talking to me and I don't let them finish their sentence and I just say my opinion and then I walk away. So maybe they really like one hockey team and I say to them, no, the Toronto Maple Leafs are the best. And I say that right in the middle of their sentence and I walk away. We would say that I shut them down. Okay, so I shut someone down because my opinion was stronger than them. When you shut someone out, it means you just stop talking to them. So oftentimes this will happen in a relationship. Sometimes a man and a woman are dating or they have a romantic interest in each other. And then things will go off the rails, we say. So one person doesn't want to see the other person anymore. So we would say that they stop talking to them, they shut them out. I hope those are good explanations. Oh, here's a good one too. I feel bad about this, but Abdulali says, "Hi Bob, I'm very sad that I can't see your live stream now because I'm too tired. It's 12 a.m. here in Morocco and I'm too sleepy. Thank you for your efforts." So earlier, someone made a suggestion in the chat that I saw, and they said that maybe I should do a live stream on Saturday earlier in the day for everyone who's in Europe and Russia. And then the next week I should do one later in the day for everyone who is in China or Japan or Brazil. Because right now, from Brazil west in the world, people are either experiencing evening or they're getting up. I know people in Taiwan, people in China, people in Vietnam are getting up, and sometimes they watch the live stream. So maybe I'll do that. We'll see, but definitely not a bad idea. And Dalali, sorry that it's so late for you. Here is the next question from Miwa. Says, what is the difference between Canadian and American English? So first of all, there are very small differences. I usually say that American English and Canadian English are very close cousins of each other. There are some words like about that we say with a slightly different accent, or the word foyer. So in America, they say foyer. I just put the word in the chat. But in Canada, we say foyer. So there's slight differences, but I will tell you this once again, Canadians and Americans have zero problems understanding each other's accents. Zero problems. I can understand every American accent, and I even went to university in the United States, and I had no problems. So very similar. I find that the British accent, and in particular the Irish and Scottish accents, are a lot more different, or a lot more different. Yeah, I'll try not to make mistakes while you're trying to learn English. Luza from Brazil says, I like that one the most, or I like that one better, thank you. So you could say either. If I was talking about tea, I could say, I like this tea a lot. I like this other tea better, but I like this tea the most. So they're called comparatives and superlatives. So generally, you express that you like something, then you like something better, which is more than the first one. And then when you say you like something the most, it is the thing that, of all of the things you looked at, that is the thing that you like above all others. So let's see here. I think I have to, there we go. Zaliufi Al-Hussein says, hello Bob, nice to see you again. Would you please post a lesson to teach us how to communicate in the affirmative, how to ask for jobs, and how to prepare your CV or your resume, in Canada we say resume, to ask for money. So I will do that. It is on the list. I have a pretty big list of videos that I need to make over the next few months. And one of them is how to prepare for, how to apply for a job, and how to do an interview at a job. So I will do that soon, Zalufi, as soon as I can. Next question, Jake says, which one is correct between in the internet and on the internet? So we do things on the internet. So I go on the internet to check my email. You could also say you connect to the internet, but most of us are connected all the time now. And we don't go in the internet. We don't say that at all. So like my son plays games on the internet. You could also say online, like I'm just going to go online and check my mail. But normally we're saying that less and less. We talk about the internet less and less, and we actually say what we're going to do. Like I'm going to watch some YouTube videos. I'm going to check my email. I'm going to go on Facebook, or I'm going to check Facebook. We don't always say internet anymore because we talk more about the thing we're going to do than the actual internet. Glober has the next question, and I clicked wrong here, just one moment. Glober Silva says, I'm confused about a phrasal verb. Give us some examples of point out. Well, I'd like to point out that I use this mug every week. So I'm highlighting, I'm emphasizing that I use this. So I'm pointing out that I use this mug every week. But I can also point out that it's important to read, write, listen, and speak English every week. So I'm emphasizing it once again. I can also literally point out someone in a crowd. Like I could say, I was at a concert and I saw my brother, and I pointed out my brother to my wife. Like, oh, there he is over there. So there's a few examples for you. Let's see here. Let me tidy up my questions again. Delete a few. So folks, we have 489 people watching, and the questions, the list of questions is quite big. So please be patient. I'll try to get through as many as I can. But we'll go with the next one. Gadiel says, eat or have dinner, lunch, breakfast. It's a little confusing. So in my part of Ontario, Canada, I can't speak for the rest of the world. I would say I need to eat dinner. I need to have dinner. I need to have breakfast. I need to eat breakfast. Or I need to have lunch. I need to eat lunch. So I would use them the same. So I would say last night I had dinner at 7 p.m. I'm going to have dinner after this live stream. Actually, I had dinner already. I'm not having dinner after the live stream. It's pretty late here. I see a lot of people asking questions in the chat. Please be aware that I don't answer questions from the chat. Please use the form, and things are filling up. So we'll see how far I can get. Sebastian says, what kind of text should I write since I want to be a singer-songwriter? So two things, Sebastian, that you should do. One is you should read a lot of English poetry, because when you write songs, you're actually writing poems. So number one, you should read a lot of English poetry and English songs, because they are poems as well. And then you're probably going to guess number two, which is you should be writing some poems. If you want to be an English singer-songwriter, you should be writing some poems. So that's what I would recommend to you. Anna's going to ask a question here. Tell us about AM and PM. So a long time ago, I lived in Quebec, and I got used to saying things like, right now it is this time, which we would say is 1937. But the rest of English-speaking Canada doesn't do that. They say that it is 7:37 p.m. I don't actually know what AM and PM stand for. I don't know what their short forms. Maybe Todd can look it up. But in the morning, we would say, I get up. Each morning, I get up at 6:30 a.m. For those of you that use a 24-hour clock, you don't have to say AM. You just say, I get up at 6:30. It's way easier. I have dinner at 18:30. It's way easier. So we use AM so that we know we're talking about the AM and all that. I see Uu in the chat. She has been watching my lessons and live streams for a long time, so I'm just going to say hi to her. And I'm going to say hi to everyone else in the chat as well. AD says, how to do small talk. Talking about the weather is very common. So I did a video on small talk, and I can't remember all the details, but you should be ready to talk about current films, the news, sports, and the weather. Off the top of my head, those are the four things you should always be ready to talk about in English. I can't remember what I just said, but the news, sports, current films, if that's a popular thing in your area, and the weather. So those are four things just off the top of my head you should always be ready to talk about in English. You should be able to say things like, wow, it's really raining today. By the way, we did a live lesson yesterday on weather and natural disasters. I'll put a link up here if you're watching the replay. It was a pretty good lesson. Lots of people came. I think we broke a record. I think over 650 people were watching that lesson. So, and AD, you should practice that. You should write out small talk before you get in a conversation. So you should always be ready. Okay, I'm going out tonight. I'm going to be seeing people who are English speakers, I should know something to talk about. So quickly review the weather in English, quickly review what are the current films. Have you seen The Avengers Endgame? I think that might be out of theaters by now, but you should just be ready. You should always be ready to have small talk. Let's see here. Manura Guapla says, Bob, I'd like you to make a video on the vocabulary used in court. So I'll think about it. I'm having trouble. I want to do a video on Let's Learn English at the police station, but I haven't gone and asked if that's okay yet. I have to go to the police station and ask if I can do that. And maybe I should add to that and talk about lawyers and the court system and judges. That would be a great idea. I will put that on my list. Manira, thank you so much for that suggestion. Next question is from Miwa. What is the big difference between Canadian and American English? We talk about hockey more. I think that's probably the bigger difference between the two. Maxime, what's the pronunciation of ma'am and madame? Thanks. So, first of all, we don't use these words very much anymore in Canadian English, but when you refer to a man like a teacher that you respect, you would say, sir. Sir, can I ask you a question? And when you have a teacher, you might say, ma'am, can I ask you a question? Although both of those words are used less and less in everyday English. We're a little more informal now, even in school and in education. Although I still have some students call me sir, and I kind of like it when they say that. Like, sir, can I ask you a question? Okay, my computer just did something weird. That's fine. I think we're going to recover. Henry from Taiwan says, hi, Bob. Hi, Henry. What time will the sun go below the horizon in the summer, in the evening in Canada? Is it possible when you say goodnight to someone, but the sun is still shining? Yes, because right now it is 20 to 8, and the sun is still up right now where I am in Canada. In different parts of the year, like in the beginning of July, the sun was up almost till 9:30, 9:40 at night. So you would still say good night at the end of the evening if that happened. So even with the sun up, you would still say good night. Let's see. Oh, this is from Julio. Julio says, what's the meaning of getting a hold of someone? So maybe I need to talk to my brother. And my brother is in Quebec right now. He's actually at a car race in Quebec. So if I needed to talk to my brother right now, I would have to find a way to get a hold of him. I would need to find a way to be able to phone him, maybe give him a phone call or text him. But it means to connect with someone, either via the phone or text or email when you get a hold of someone. I'm just noticing my horizon's crooked. Let me fix that for a sec, folks. You're gonna all get tilted a little bit in a sec. There, that's a little better. Now the horizon is straight. You see that? The horizon behind me is fairly straight now. So there, you learned a new word, horizon. Let's go to the next question though. Brahim has the next question. I'm just watching myself adjust my camera right now. It actually looks kind of funny. I'm tilting on the screen right now. Brahim says, hi Bob, how are you? What does it mean when you say legit? It's an informal way to say that you like something. Like, this tea is legit. So that would mean that I really like this tea. Or I put this bug spray on and no mosquitoes have bitten me. This bug spray is legit. So I'm saying it works really good and I really like it. So that's what legit would mean. And it is informal. It's not used in written English. It's not used, it would be used, you would use it between friends and family, right? You would say, wow, this breakfast was legit. Thanks, man. You made me a really, really good breakfast. Have bitten me. Next one. Nathan from Brazil says, why is it so hard to pronounce rule and roll? Such tongue twister words, haha. So rule, so the government rules the country. Rule. And when you are in a play, you have a role. I don't know why it's so hard to pronounce. Rule is kind of a weird tongue motion. Rule, like your tongue moves. And roll, you make an O with your mouth. So maybe practice your O sounds. Roll. Rule. So rule and roll. Or roll. There's two, right? Like if this fell over, it would roll. R-O-L-L. I'm really enjoying my tea tonight. Let's go to the next question though. Let me tidy up my questions for a minute here. And Johnny has the next question. Johnny says, C1 level as a non-native good. Yes, C1. So if you're unfamiliar with the CEFR, which are the levels for the European framework for learning languages, it goes from A1, A2, B1, B2. I'm a French B2 speaker, by the way, and then C1, C2. Levels C1 and C2 are very high levels of speaking a language. If you are a level C1 English speaker, that is a very, very good level. Next question. Glober Silva says, hi Bob, could you share some examples of the words sensitive and sensible? Thank you. So if I'm sensitive, it means that if someone tells me a sad story, I become sad as well. If I'm sensitive and someone tells me a happy story, I become happy as well because I'm sensitive to other people's emotions, okay? By the way, I get these two words mixed up in French all the time, so it's a great question. So sensitive, if I'm sensitive, it means I easily feel what other people are feeling. If I'm sensible though, it means I'm practical. So a sensible person doesn't spend a lot of money. A sensible person plans their budget every month because they're logical, they're practical, they're sensible. They think before they do stuff. So sensitive, if you tell me a sad story, I will cry if I'm sensitive. If you tell me a happy story or a joke, I will smile or laugh if I'm sensitive. But if I'm sensible, I will do things that are very practical. Sensible people show up at work on time. Sensible people start their live streams on time. Here's another one, and let me get the name right here. Anel Ross, another versus other. I'm going to have another cup of tea after this. That's an example of another. I don't like to drink any other kind of tea. Okay, so another means in addition to. So sometimes people have one kid and then they have another kid. Sometimes people have one car and then they buy another car. But if you buy a car and you don't like it, you might say to yourself, I'm not sure I like this car. I've looked at a couple of other cars because I might buy them. That was another, Bob kind of explained it. I hope it made some sense. Let me get some stuff cleared away here. Got to find a faster way to do this. Miroslav, hi Miroslav, how are you? Miroslav is also a regular question asker. Hi Miroslav. Hi Bob, Todd, and others. Is it the phrase a pig in a poke something common to say in American and Canadian English, or is there some other way to say it? So we do not say a pig in a poke in Canadian English. Let's see here. As bought or accepted without knowing its value or seeing it first. No, we do not have a phrase like that I know of. I will have to do some more research, Miroslav, but we do not say that. I do know if you buy something and it regularly breaks after you buy it, we call it a lemon. That's not exactly the same definition though. Let's see here. Next question is from Gadiel. Good morning, teacher. Sorry for the grammar question. That's okay. But be going to and will is the same. So I think a long time ago they were a little bit different. But tomorrow morning I am going to get up at 6:30. Tomorrow morning I will get up at 6:30. I would use them interchangeably in English a lot. They are almost the same thing now, and it is your choice. I think I did these 2 questions already. Let me clear them away. Let's see here. The next question is from Chen. And Chen's question is, which is correct, that the manager, just let me look at this to get it right. I would say it's the management department of the company. And it would be the company's management department or the management department. So I'm using a slightly different word there. You were saying manager, but I'm using the word management. So in a company, they'll have different departments, and one of those departments will be called management, okay? It's usually the department that is in charge of everybody else. So hopefully I explained that pretty good, Chen. Juan says, hello, Bob. I am Juan from Ecuador. You are a great teacher, but what is the difference between because and because of? So I make videos because I like to make them. I make videos because of the fact that when I was learning French, I couldn't find very good videos to help me learn French. And I knew the kind of videos I wanted. So there was, yeah, in that second sentence, you could use because or because of. But generally when you use because of, I drink tea because of the fact that I get a sore throat. I drink tea because I get a sore throat. Yeah, you're gonna have to let me research this a bit more, because in the examples I'm giving, they mean the same thing. You could use either. So a better example would be, yeah, he robbed the bank because he needed money. Don't rob banks, by the way, it's illegal. He robbed the bank because of his sister. Maybe his sister made him rob the bank. Think about those 2 examples. That might help you a little bit. Hosam has the next question. And his question is a suggestion. Thank you very much, says Hosam. You're a very talented teacher. Thank you. It's 2:30 in Saudi Arabia, so I am making the suggestion of having an earlier live stream on Saturdays. So Hosam, I will think about it. There was a suggestion that one week I do a late live stream and the next week I do an earlier one. We'll see. But I do have time in my day right now to do a live stream. So it's tricky for me because it's easier for me to do it at this time of day. So let me think about it, Hosam, and we'll go from there. Joseph Mario says, what's the difference between motion and movimento? I think you mean momentum. I think you're saying motion and momentum. Those are the 2 words. So when something's in motion, it's simply moving. But when something has momentum, it means it's moving, but it's going to keep moving because it has momentum. You know, if you put a car in neutral so that you can push the car, because the car is heavy, if you push it to a certain speed and if you stop pushing, the car will keep moving because it has momentum, because the car is heavy. So you just learned the word neutral there too, right? When you get in a car, you put it in reverse to go backwards. You put it in neutral, and then the car can roll if someone pushes it, or you put it in drive. That's how you would say that. Let's see here. Where am I at? I'm losing my spot. Sometimes Bob the Canadian forgets what he's talking about. Let's see what this one is, though. We have a question from Janeth. Could you give us an expression to express in the moment when we don't know the answer? I don't know what it is. You catch me or you get me. Thank you for your support. Let me see. So you're talking about having an English conversation and you want to have an expression to use when you don't know the answer. Oh, that's a tricky one. So if someone says to me in French something I don't understand, what do I say to them in that moment? I would probably say, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Could you repeat that for me? Thanks. That's a great sentence right there. So if someone said something to me in English as a native English speaker, I'd say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Could you repeat that for me? Thanks. And then say thanks at the end. People like it when you say thanks. Let's see here. Clayton from Brazil says, hi Bob, what is the best moment to use instead of between? Oh, so you're looking at, so some week maybe someone else will do this video instead of me. So instead of me being here, there will be a different person. I doubt that's going to happen, but it could. And between is simply, my head is between the cup and the bug spray. So I'm not sure if that was your question, Clayton, but that was my best attempt to answer it. Hosam says, I started shadowing you in your live stream lessons, and I feel it's helping me with speaking fluency. Thanks a lot. That's awesome, Hosam. So if you don't know what shadowing is, it's when you say everything the person in the video is saying, and it takes a little bit of practice. It's helpful if the subtitles are up. By the way, if you come back tomorrow, there will be English subtitles. There will be a CC button down here. CC button tomorrow for subtitles. It does take a little while for the subtitles to show up. But then what you can do is you can play a 30-second or 1-minute clip, and then you can say it out loud yourself. And then you can play another clip and say it out loud. And you can do different variations of it, and it's called shadowing. So you are saying what I'm saying to practice your English. Even if you don't understand the words, it starts to make your muscles in your mouth and throat, they get used to pronouncing the words. So it's a great thing to do. And by the way, there will be subtitles tomorrow, and it's always a great idea to watch the live stream again, just to kind of reinforce everything that you learned. Renata Mayumi says, what language is more spoken in Montreal? So Montreal is a city in the province of Quebec, and the province of Quebec speaks French, but Montreal speaks English and French. So let's check. What language is spoken? I'm going to cheat and look it up. Spoken more in Montreal, and it will say the majority of the population in Montreal is French. So most people in Montreal will speak French. I think I knew that, but I didn't want to say it off the top of my head. Mert Karabiak says, what's the meaning of Chad? So all I know is the meaning of Chad is it is a person's name. And I think it has a newer meaning. Or it's the little hole that you punch out of a piece of paper when you vote. It does have a slang meaning. I think a Chad is like a really handsome person or something like that, but I don't really know the true meaning of it. And it's also, I'm just going to check here to see if it still exists. So there is, yeah, that's what I would go with. When you punch a hole in the paper, the hole that comes out is called a Chad. If you want to know the more slang meaning, you can look it up yourself. It has some sexual overtones, I think, so I don't want to describe it here. Henry says, how's it going, Bob? Could you please show us how to make glottal stop sound when pronouncing the words such as mountain, eaten, important, Latin? Thank you in advance. So I can't show you, but I can simply pronounce the word. So mountain. My tongue is just behind my teeth and at the roof of my mouth. Mountain. Mountain, eaten. So my tongue is again right behind my top teeth. When I hit the T, eaten, and then important. But when we talk fast, we don't really make a full stop. We say mountain, eaten, and I forget the third one. Let me look it up. Important and Latin. So you can hear how it softens. If I emphasize the word mountain, I climb the mountain, you hear the T sound really hard. But when I say it fast, like, oh, I like to go mountain climbing, I really soften that T sound. Let's see here. Roland is asking, can you do a lesson about charity-related words, like donating money and those kinds of things. Certainly, Roland, I will add it to the list right now. That would be no problem. We used to say when we were buying drinks. So, hi, sir. This is from Yan. Could you give us a few ways to say, or a few phrases for asking to buy drinks? Thanks. So when you're ordering drinks, if you're in a restaurant or in a bar, you simply say, could I have a medium Coke, please? That would be like the middle size. Or if you know the name, if you are someone who drinks alcohol and you want beer, and you know the name of the beer, you would say, I'll have a pint of this. I think if you're in the United States, you wouldn't use pint, but in Canada we have half pint or sleeve. And if you're ordering a mixed drink, you would order it by name as well. But if you were ordering soda or pop, we call it pop in Canada, like Coke, you would just say, I'll have a small Coke, I'll have a medium coffee. Those are the sizes that we use in Canada. It does change in different parts of the world though. Next question is from Ichugan says, hi Bob, do you need some help on your farm? No, Ichugan, I appreciate the offer, but we do not need help on our farm. We are able to get everything done here on our own. By the way, a friend of mine named Now from China visited this past week, a good friend of mine from years ago. And he looked at the farm and he asked the same question, how do you get all this work done? And the answer is we use a lot of tractors. We use a lot of farm equipment. So, and by the way, Now, if you're watching, it was a great visit. Thanks for popping by. It was fun to learn a little bit about China, and it was fun to teach you a little bit more about Canada. It was a good trip. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good question. So Rosamond says, what is the difference between onto something and into something? So when you're onto something, it means something you don't know about, but you're starting to figure it out. I did a lesson this week for my short English lessons. I forget the word. When you get wind of something. So when you're onto something, sometimes the police, they get evidence and then they're onto something. They're figuring out who the criminal is. So when you're onto something, you're figuring out. When you're into something, it means you like doing it. So you might be into reading, you might be into watching movies, you might be into making YouTube videos like I am. Excuse me. So when you're into something, it means you really, really like doing it. Next one, Fabio Santos. Fabio Santos says, please pronounce these two words. Pool, so you go swimming in a pool. We used to have a swimming pool, but it started to leak. Now the kids are sad because we don't have a pool anymore, but yesterday we went to the public pool in our local town. So they got to go swimming in a pool yesterday. But the next word is poll. So a poll is when you ask people a question and give them different responses they can choose from. So on my YouTube community page, I can make a poll and say, which video was your favorite? And people give the answer. So you swim in a pool and you answer questions in a poll. Let me clean up here. If you wonder what I'm doing when I say I need to clean up, I have my laptop and I have all your answers coming in. And I delete the ones that I've already answered so I can make sure that I don't answer them twice. Andre Cruciante says, hi Bob, concerning the TH pronunciation, I have a stupid fear of getting my front teeth protruding outward for trying to do the sound. Is this a really stupid fear? No. Every fear you have when learning a language is totally okay. Everyone who learns to speak a language has fears. I have fears when I speak French. I had to do a parent-teacher interview in French once, and that was very difficult for me, and I had some fears that I would pronounce things wrong. But I wouldn't worry too much about that because you don't really push too hard when you do that. It's more of a, you see it right here? This is how you do it. So you're not so much pushing as just putting your tongue there with the TH sound. Let's see here. A lot of people in chat saying that they like watching my videos. Thanks, everybody. Let's see here. Luis says, "Hi Bob, good evening. Which of these cities is coldest in the winter? Toronto, Ottawa, or Montreal?" Well, it's either Ottawa or Montreal. They are the furthest north. It is cold in Toronto, but I'm going to say that probably Ottawa and Montreal are equal. It's probably just as cold in both of those two. Let's see here. Next question, Gino says, "Hi Bob, I have no question right now. I want to invite you to our country." Oh, thank you. In Georgia. I will be happy if you arrive here to visit my family. If I travel someday, I'll let some of you know. But as you know, I have a job. I'm married. I have 5 children. I'm not going to be traveling anytime soon. And also traveling costs lots of money. And I'm a very, very cheap person. I don't like to spend money. But we'll see. Thank you, Gino, for the offer. I really appreciated that. But we'll see. Someday, maybe I will travel the world a bit and I might see some of you. Luis from Brazil says, "Bob, are there people living in the extreme north in Canada?" Yes, we have people called the Inuit, and they are native people to Canada, and they live in all parts of northern Canada. Even when it's extremely cold, there are people that still live up there. And there is surprisingly, they're not that cold. Like, I know it's cold outside, but in northern Canada, people have found a way to live and to enjoy life up there. It's very beautiful because for 6 months of the year, the sun shines, and then for 6 months, it's a little darker, I think. But depends how far north you go. Chen has a question. Let's see here. See if I can get this one right. Chen, if I'm yelling at Jack and Jeff, who are far away, like 50 meters from me, and can I shout Jacker and Jeffu in case of the weak ending sound? No, I would not yell that unless that was already their nicknames. I would just yell Jeff. Like, you want me to yell? I'd be like, Jack, Jeff. So you can do it. Should I do that again? Jack, Jeff. I don't know if Jen's going to be looking at me funny for yelling during my live stream. But you can make the Jack, you can make the hard sound at the end, and Jeff, you can make that a loud sound as well. Let's see here. Hosam says, "How do I politely tell someone that they are wrong?" I usually start by saying, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. So it doesn't mean I'm saying that they're wrong. So if someone says the Montreal Canadiens are the best hockey team in the world, I might say, I'm not so sure about that. And then I might point out some reasons why the Toronto Maple Leafs are better. But yeah, that's how I would start. I would say, I'm not so sure about that. Or you could also say, oh, that hasn't been my experience. If someone says that a certain restaurant is the best restaurant in town, you could say, oh, that hasn't been my experience. That would be a great way to do it. Louise says, Bob, the CN Tower in Toronto, is it still a company or is it one of the symbols of Canada? So I'm not sure who owns the CN Tower. It was built by the Canadian National. Don't quote me on this. Go to the Wikipedia page and look it up. But I'm not sure who owns it now, but it is definitely a symbol of the city of Toronto, the CN Tower. It's an amazing looking tower, super fun. Let's see here. Louise says, Bob, is your farm close to or does it have a maple tree, a leaf of, the leaf that's on the Canadian flag? Yeah, there's a maple tree. Well, here, let's go and move a little bit. That's a maple tree right there. Let me just get you a leaf for a sec. 1 minute. So you can see, let me readjust my camera here. There we go. This one has some holes in it from bugs, but where I am sitting at my picnic table, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's about 12 maple trees that I can see. So there are a lot of maple trees in Canada. A lot. All kinds of them. I'm watching myself on my screen run and get a maple leaf. Let's go to that was a great question, Louise. That was fun to go and get a tree. Let's see here. Irfan says, Bob, can I say that children are vulnerable to disease? Correct me if I'm wrong. You can say that. Although you could also say that children are resilient. They are vulnerable to disease, but kids, sometimes when they get sick, they get better really fast. When I get sick, I don't get better really fast. The maple leaf is blowing away. So again, this is a maple leaf, and it's from the maple tree behind me. Across the river there, some of those trees are also maple trees. There's good reason that we have the maple leaf on our flag. There are a lot of maple trees in Canada. Let's see here. Let me tidy up my list of questions and we will move on to the next one. And the next question is from Chana, Chana from the Ukraine. Hi, I have lots of viewers from the Ukraine. It's really late in the Ukraine, Chana. You're staying up pretty late. Why do Canadians say have a good night in the afternoon? I think it's all relative. If I am leaving work, and I leave work around 4:30, I will say to my coworkers, have a good night. Or I'll say, have a good evening, or have a good night. So I'm wishing them well. It's the same as saying to someone in the morning, have a great day. So if I was to talk to someone early in the morning and then we were going in different directions, I would say, have a great day as they leave. Renata has a question here. Renata Mayumi says, could you give us a brief explanation about the phrasal verb shore up? That's a difficult one because it involves... like if a building is kind of, I want to get this right. If a building is falling over a bit and then you put some wood on it to hold it up, we would say you're shoring up the building. It's not a regular verb though. Like we don't use the verb shore up very much at all. Maybe in the news they would say they needed to shore up the old buildings so that the wind wouldn't blow them down. So it's a challenging one to explain because we don't use it much anymore. But definitely, yeah, it's if something's going to fall down and you add some wood to it, you are shoring it up. Let's see here. Luis says, Bob, is the national anthem of Canada good for training or for learning English because it's so easy to sing? A little bit, but I think there's probably a lot better music. Certainly listen to our national anthem, but it has a lot of very old phrases in there. You know, "O Canada, we stand on guard for thee." It's a very old English. So certainly listen to it. I think you'll enjoy it. But I would listen to more modern English, more modern music, I think would be better. Let's see here. Lovely says, hi Bob, when we pull or twist our fingers, it makes a little sound. Is there any specific name? Are you talking about this? This is a snap. I'm snapping my fingers. So I can snap both my fingers. That sounded pretty cool. I think, is that what you mean, to snap? So sometimes people snap their fingers. Sometimes people do it in restaurants when they want the waiter. They'll be like, but it's actually a little bit rude, I think, to do that. And sometimes people snap when they're listening to a song. They'll snap their fingers. I think that's what you were asking. Hopefully that's what you were asking. Let's see here. Glober Silva says, hey Bob, say hi to my daughter. Her name is Luna. Hi Luna, I hope you're having a good night. My other question is, what's the difference between sensitive and sensible? I think I already talked about sensitive and sensible. Again, sensitive is if I easily feel the emotions of someone else. So if you're happy and I'm sensitive, I'm happy with you. If I'm sensible, it simply means, oh, Todd says you might have been talking about cracking your fingers. I don't do that, but some people can do this and their fingers crack. Mine don't do that. So I was maybe snapping. But anyways, sensible is when you are a practical, nice practical person. Let's see here. Louise Sanchez says, "Hi Bob, I already have good writing and listening skills. That's awesome. But speaking is my Achilles heel." So an Achilles heel is the weak part in any plan, is called the Achilles heel because of Achilles. You'll have to look up the story of Achilles. Could you give me any advice to improve my pronunciation? So I would start reading out loud, first of all. If your writing and listening skills are great, I'm going to assume that your reading skills are pretty good. I would say you should probably be reading out loud, and you need to find someone to talk to. So I see that time is ticking. Johnny says, "Hi again, haha, try imitating the New Zealand accent, please." I cannot do a New Zealand or an Australian accent. I am not very good at it. Let me see here. Luis Carlos says, "Thanks for your classes, Bob. You're welcome. It's a great opportunity to learn English and as a bonus to get to know the culture of Canada." Well, thank you very much. That is it's kind of two things, right? Like I do this Saturday night live stream so you can learn some English, but I am always open to questions about Canada. By the way, just a couple of pieces of information. You should watch this tomorrow with the subtitles turned on. There will be English subtitles tomorrow, so come back and watch the parts of it that you maybe didn't understand. You can practice some shadowing. If you're new here, you should click that red subscribe button down there if you want to be notified when I make a new video. And if you would like to give me a thumbs up, I would appreciate it. I'm Bob the Canadian. I know it sounds like this live stream is ending because it is ending. It has been 1 hour. And I have usually about 1 hour to do a live stream. So thank you very much for watching. Again, I'm Bob the Canadian, 568 people. That's so many people. And I appreciate it that you are working hard to learn English. Again, I've told you in the past, I have spent a lot of time learning French as a second language. And I know what it's like to learn a language. And I'm hoping that all of the things that I learned on my journey to learning French are helping you as I apply them to teaching English to you. Anyways, have a great night. Oh, I made a mistake there. Ignore the spelling error after the word night. But thank you so much for watching. 589 people. I think that's a new record. Hopefully, those of you that are in the same time zone as me, have a good evening. Those of you that are in Europe and Russia and the Ukraine and Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, you should go to bed now. It's a little late. And those of you to the west of me, those of you who are in Japan, who are in China, who are in India and are just getting up to start your day, I hope you have a very, very nice day ahead of you. Bob the Canadian here. You're learning English with Bob the Canadian. I'm going to wave bye and I'm going to push this